What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and what a great weekend! I mean, the Falcons won today, so they're going to the Super Bowl right before we get our new stadium and the introduction of our MLS team. Awesome. Tottenham and Man City tied yesterday. Great. Liverpool lost. Awesome. To Swansea, even better. And then Arsenal today. Well, Man U tied, but that was kind of a given. They can't do it on a cold, rainy night in Stoke. Arsenal today barely beat Burnley, who have the worst away record in the Premier League right now. Like, one tie and the rest are losses. And they had Xhaka and Wenger sent off. And they had to pay off the referees to miss that last offside that led to their penalty. Clearly, they have some issues. The only thing that was bad about this weekend was every time I logged on to Facebook to look up stories, transfer talk, stuff like that, I had to read some sore loser's rant about how Trump's going to destroy America. Yeah, because clearly it's not the people rioting and breaking people's stuff, and yeah, clearly it's going to be the president who everybody hates. Anyway, not going to talk about that because who cares? Hopefully it's going to die down soon. But let's move on to something better, which is, of course, the Chelsea game. Now, even though the result was good, even though Costa's scoring is amazing and his celebration was awesome, it wasn't the best game. I'm not really sure why. It was kind of bizarre watching this game unfold because Hull had a midweek game and we had a full week to prepare for this. So it was kind of, well, did they have a midweek game? I can't remember if they tied or not. But either way, it felt like we should have had enough time to prepare for this. We should be aptly in form, in shape, and yet it just seemed kind of slower today. I'm not entirely sure why. It's not like people played terribly today. There were a couple that were below average, a couple that were just average, and then one or two that stood out as actually playing really well today. So, yeah, even though the win is great, 2-0 is a great scoreline, there are some problems that we need to discuss. So first of all, let's talk about the lineup. I like it. The fact that Costa comes back after everything that happened last week, the whole talk about moving to China and all of that, I'm glad the fact that Conte said, you know what, let's bring him back in. Because the whole talk during that time was Costa wants to stay at Chelsea. The China talk is just talk. It's just a back injury. That's the only reason he's been left out this weekend. And of course everybody's just like, oh no, he's going, he's leaving, blah, blah, blah. Well, Conte decides I'm putting him in today. That's great. I'm glad. The rest of the lineup completely unchanged. I don't mind that much just because, it is a winning lineup. We've won several games with this lineup aside from Pedro and Willian and Matic and Fabregas sometimes switch out, but the rest of it stays the same. I don't mind. The one that I would have liked to see, I guess I could say it easier in hindsight now, but I would have liked to see Fabregas in, just because Hull were likely to sit back on us, and we need somebody like Fabregas in there to just be more creative. Matic doesn't really have that creative edge. Conte doesn't have that creative edge. Fabregas, he would have found that cutting pass that just tears apart the whole back line, even with 10 guys sitting back. He would have found the pass that would have scored a goal or two, and I think it would have been a lot more separated as far as the score goes if he had come in earlier. But, with Matic in, we do have a bit more defensive stability. So I don't mind. And on top of that, you look to the bench. Ake is now on the bench for Ivanovic. I like that. I like the fact that now he's starting to work his way to where, okay, now he's on the bench. Maybe as things keep going, Alonso, maybe he'll take his place. Maybe Cahill's place. Who knows? So I don't mind the lineup. I don't mind who's on the bench. I think it was good for today. Not the best, but good. Let's talk about individual performances now, because, some, I think, it's interesting to look at them individually, because you look at the team as a whole, you could say, oh, well, today was an average day. But if you look at them individually, you can kind of see where we had our problems today. Start from Courtois, great game. In my opinion, he's my man of the match. People were talking about, Costa scored, Cahill scored, Moses had a great assist and some great runs, Azpilicueta made some great defensive stops. Not only did Courtois have to make some great saves today, he had to deal with some terrible back passes and he had to be able to use his feet effectively because Hull were putting a lot of pressure on our defense, so they kept having to come back to Courtois. So he was not just involved as far as his saves go, he was also involved as far as passing and clearances and all of that stuff. And he did it all to perfection today. I can't think of one moment where he made a mistake. Or he even came close to making a mistake. I think everything he did was spot on today. And that's always nice to see whenever you've got a keeper, especially with some of the keepers like, Lloris struggled this weekend and Bravo's been struggling every weekend. To know that we've got a keeper like Courtois who doesn't make mistakes with his feet, doesn't make mistakes with his hands, it's nice to have that consistency back there. Defensively, or in the defense, however you want to say it, Azpilicueta, like I said, made a lot of great stops today. Maybe he could have been a little bit more calm with the ball. There were a couple times where he just sort of smashed it forward instead of looking for a simple pass, or he tried to do that long cutting ball and instead he got picked off and now they're running back at us. So maybe going forward he could have been a little bit better today. But defensively, that's what I know he's on the field for. I know he's there to make those stops, to make that last-ditch challenge, to keep Hull from being dangerous. He did that a lot today. David Luiz, same thing, except he had a little bit more going forward. I would say there were a couple mistakes he made defensively where he just got caught stepping out instead of staying back. But overall, he made some good challenges. I remember one in particular, it looked like they were through with Abel Hernandez, and all of a sudden David Luiz is there, puts his body in the way, takes the ball off of him, and the attack is gone. So he made a few of those, and then there was one, I think the first minute or the first seconds of the game, ball gets dropped back to him. He plays this long ball going forward that's dangerous, not well headed out. Now all of a sudden Costa's taking it on the chest and has a very close chance 15 seconds into the game. So he likes to do that from time to time, just send a dangerous ball forward, cause the defense to have to deal with it. It's worrisome for the other team. So I like having him in there just because he adds that little bit of unknown factor going forward. And then on top of that, like I said, defensively he's been solid. And if he isn't, we have the other two defenders to step in behind him. Cahill had some issues today. There were a couple in particular where they had a shot from outside the box and it's coming from his side. And that's a lot of where the other team's attacks have been coming from in the past several games. They come down the left side and Cahill doesn't do a great job of closing things down. And so the one I'm thinking of in particular, Harry Maguire's charging down the field, and Cahill is like caught in two minds. It's like he doesn't know whether to step and let Alonso take the wing or if he wants to stay back just in case they play it out there or what. And so he does neither. He just sort of stands there. Harry Maguire has a shot. He kind of turns his back out of the way, and all of a sudden it's dipping away from Courtois. He has to make a great save because it's hard for him to see behind Cahill. So just little moments like that I think we could find somebody that wouldn't make those mistakes. John Terry wouldn't make those mistakes. And on top of that, John Terry doesn't make mistakes on the ball either. And once again, Cahill for some reason thinks he's Hazard and he can dribble people, so there are like three defenders cutting off his passing lanes, and instead of just going down the line or something a little bit more safe, he has to do a fancy cut and then another fancy cut, and one slip, which people were slipping today, one slip and they're through, and you know that, and I know that, and he knows that, and yet he continues to do it, and I don't understand why. But, he didn't have a bad game, like I said. The mistakes were only a couple, but it still feels like we could put somebody else in there that's a lot more solid, who's not going to make as many mistakes as he does. Onto the wingbacks, Moses, great game today. Great assist for the first goal. I think he really caused a lot of trouble going down the wings. I love how he just takes the ball from outside, and it's just so easy for him to cause the fullback or the wingback, whoever has to be back there marking him, he causes so much trouble for whoever that is. And you can see it too. As soon as he picks up the ball, they look worried. They're like, you can see they're like not sure what to do. Do I step? Do I stay? Do I try to force him out wide? Or do I make sure he doesn't get out there so he can't cut in? Where do I take him? Because it feels like no matter where you take him, he's always going to get a chance. A couple of times his crosses aren't the best, but he's still creating those chances. He's still putting the back line under pressure. And that's what you want from your wing players. You don't want them to just always do whatever and never cause any trouble. And that's kind of my complaint with Alonso. Aside from the fact that defensively he's still getting caught out and still doesn't really know when to make the right challenges, a lot of the time the ball goes out to him and you know exactly what he's going to do. You send the ball out, he's about to hit in a cross. Gets cleared, gets deflected, whatever. Send the ball back out to Alonso, he sends in another cross. It's like that's all he has going with his game. And while a couple of those crosses are dangerous and they do look good, for the most part, it doesn't feel like he's really creating much with that. Most of his crosses are either headed away or they're too far or they're too short. He used to do better with them, but I think once other teams started to figure out this is what he does, we just need to shut him down, make sure he doesn't have a good cross, or if you are going to let him have the cross, make sure you mark so that way nobody can get on the end of it. It's like teams have figured that out now, so he's been much less effective going forward than he has been in the several games before this one. And so, if you're not creating anything going forward, well, you got to do good defensive work. Like I said, he's getting caught out. He doesn't track back well enough. He doesn't put in a great defensive challenge. I mean, you put somebody out there with quick feet, Alonso's going to dive in and get beat. So I think out of everybody today, I think he was probably our worst performer. I hate to say it, but I think that's probably where Ake is going to slot in, maybe in the next few games. Probably, I'll be interested to see if he goes in center back or goes in wing back. Probably going to see that whenever they play Brentford in the FA Cup. I think that's when Conte will decide whether or not he's going to play defense or wing backs. Up into the midfield, Conte and Matic. Like I said, lacked Fabregas's inventiveness today. However, Conte still just creates so much just by doing his defensive work. And it's really crazy to think about, being a good defender actually creates something going forward, but he knows when to make that challenge. It's that transition from defense to attack for the other team. That's when he makes his challenge. If he wins it, if he pokes it away, now all of a sudden they're caught off guard and now we're attacking them, even though they were just about to attack us. He does it so well and so effectively. I can't imagine anybody else in there besides him. Fabregas does great with his passes. Matic does well defensively, but he just does so much on both sides of it. He gets up in the attack and all of a sudden he's there just helping out. Even if it's not the best passes, even if it's not as creative as Fabregas, he's still there and he's still causing a threat for the back line. They still have to mark him because he's so quick. I love watching Conte play. He really is probably our best player so far this season. I know a lot of people are going to complain, say Costa or Hazard. I really do think without Conte in that midfield, I don't think we'd be struggling. I don't think we'd be out of the top four, but I don't think we'd be clear by 8 points right now if not for Conte. Matic, like I said, does good defensive work, but even though he does good defensive work, he still has moments where he just kind of shuts off. There's moments where Conte will step in, and the reason he goes flying in is because he has faith that his fellow teammates around him are going to know, okay, him stepping in is going to cause them to have to lay it off to this player, because that's where he's forcing it. So if Matic isn't aware to that, well, now Conte goes flying in, causes the pressure, they pass around him, because Matic didn't step to this player. So, in a bizarre way, Matic not doing his job actually makes Conte look worse. And so there were moments like that in this game, mainly at the beginning of the second half and at the beginning of the first half, when we had our least amount of possession, when it looked like Hull were creating a lot of chances. That's why. There were these moments where Conte would go flying in, putting a lot of pressure, but then Matic doesn't step in. So now, instead of Conte pressure, Matic steps in and wins it from this guy, it's Conte pressure, pass, Conte's beat, Matic is now stepping in late, now he's beat too. So, yeah, even though he does well overall, those moments could be what hurts us, especially since we've got Liverpool and Arsenal coming up. We need him to be more aware of that. We need him to make sure that he's not letting those players have the space that he let the whole City players have today. Because you do that against Arsenal, you let Sanchez have that space to play a little 1-2 with somebody, it's going to hurt us. So that would be my only complaint from him today. And also maybe just stop trying to be Fabregas, because there are a couple times where he tries to spray the ball out wide like Fabregas does. And where Fabregas puts it on their foot, he kind of sometimes completely misses. So up to the top three, Hazard and Pedro were in behind Costa. Hazard had a good first half, after his typical 15 minutes to get into it, but second half he kind of faded out of it. I'm not sure what it was. It looked like maybe he was struggling with something a little bit, but I don't know. The effectiveness of his runs and just him getting on the ball in the second half really took a downturn. First half it felt like every single chance he got, he wanted to be on the ball. He wanted to make a pass. He wanted to attack. Second half, it was like if he did get on the ball, it was either a turn, slowly pass it out to somebody, or something slow. It didn't seem like he was as quick on the ball. Pedro, similarly, first half looked pretty good. Created some chances, really worked hard to win the ball back several times, which is what he does very well. But then second half just started giving the ball away, and honestly, before the sub came in, I was thinking we need to get Pedro out because a lot of his passes were just straight to the other team and starting their counterattack. So I'm still kind of on the fence about Pedro. He has those moments where I'm just like, that's a great goal. I can't imagine Pedro not in the team. And then he has those moments where he gives the ball away, starts their counterattack, and it doesn't work back well enough to help. I'm like, why is he in the team? So I don't think I've ever had one player that I'm so divided on as far as I want him on the field, but I also don't want him on the field. And then Costa had a great goal, did well to get the goal, and just worked hard today. Not as hard as he normally works. He looked a little bit slower at times, but still worked hard. And I love the fact that he managed to get a goal, and his celebration was perfect. All the talking going on, he just shut him up, said, "I'm gonna keep scoring." It's great. I love that fact. And even when he came off for Batshuayi at the end, going over, giving the other manager, a hug, giving Conte a high five and a hug, giving every coach on the bench a high five. It was kind of like he was saying, "I'm happy here." I don't know if that was more for show or if that was something he just wanted to. He heard about all the talking. He's just like, "I want to show people the media is wrong." You could read into that. I choose to say I'm happy with the goal and I'm happy with his performance today. I hope he keeps it up because if he keeps performing like this, we'll easily win the league this season. And then on to the subs. First two to come on were Fabregas and Willian for Hazard and Pedro. Good subs. Hazard, like I said, was looking a bit slower. Pedro was causing issues. Fabregas came on, made some good passes, really calmed down our midfield to the point where Hull was having a lot of possession before he came on. When Fabregas came on, we started having all the possession. And he does it so well. He just orchestrates the midfield. There was a moment where the ball went out to Moses, and he plays it into Fabregas. Fabregas lays it off to Azpilicueta, and he's like pointing to send it out to the other side. Well, Azpilicueta passes it back to him. He lays it off to, I think, Matic or somebody. And he's, again, pointing, get it out to the other side, because Alonso was in a ton of space. And instead, Matic just sends it and kicks it out of bounds. I'm like, Fabregas is trying to tell you. He's showing you where to pass it. And he does that so well. He knows what to do. He knows who to pass it to. He knows who other people should be passing it to. I love whenever he's in the midfield because it just feels so much calmer. Whenever he gets on the ball, things just sort of calm down. We were, pass. We're scared. They're pressuring. Fabregas gets on it. Some great pass and just relieves all of the pressure. It's wonderful. Willian, I hate it because I really like Willian. I love what he did last year. I think he really showed that where everybody else was kind of faltering and they were struggling, Willian was the one who kept working hard week in, week out. He was always putting forth effort. It was wonderful to see. However, this season, his mom died, wasn't in the team for a little bit. Pedro was playing well, so he struggled to get back into it. And now it's like whenever he comes in or whenever he plays, there's just something missing to his game. And I don't know if maybe it's just the position, like he prefers to be a winger because he can start out wide and run inside, which is what he does so well. But he, like I said about Pedro kept giving away the ball, kept starting their counterattack for them. And so I thought, take him off, Willian comes on, okay, that's fine. Now Willian can do what he doesn't, actually make a pass. And then his first three passes were giveaways. I'm like, oh, well, that kind of completely negates what I was saying about Pedro. If Willian's going to do it too, what's the point of changing him? So I think maybe it's time to look at Willian as more of a winger instead of trying to play him in behind the striker. Because I really don't think that's his game. I don't think he's the player who's going to play the quick 1-2, who's going to make these simple passes. I think he's more of a dribbler. I think you put him out wide, maybe switch him out for Alonso, have Moses and Willian on the wings. I really think he does better just dribbling at the defense because it's what he's known for. That's what he is, quick little cuts in and out, and all of a sudden the defense is just on their heels and struggling to react to it. And then the last sub, Batshuayi comes on for Costa. Couple good moments, just beating the defenders, using his strength to sort of hold up the ball for a second. One in particular shouldn't have been a foul, but he beats the defender, knocks him over, and tries to run on through with the ball. So I wish he'd gotten more time. That's about the only complaint I can have there. Just like I've said in the past, Conte waits so long to make these subs that it feels like Batshuayi doesn't have a chance really to get involved in the play. When you've only got 5 minutes plus stoppage time to get involved, it's hard to build up to that. Build up to the same speed that everybody else is playing at. So I wish he'd start giving him a bit more time, but hopefully he'll get some time in the cups and we'll get to see him play well there. And that's about it for this game. I mean, like I said, good performances, bad performances, average performances. Overall, the team performance was fairly average. I mean, 2-0 against Hull at home is expected. 4-0 at home against Hull would be a good performance. And then, of course, 1-0 or below, that would be a bad performance. So I just think that today they did what was expected of them. They didn't really go out. I have to wonder if maybe seeing some of the results and seeing that, okay, the closest team is Arsenal and they're 5 points behind us. I wonder if that maybe did have an effect on them, like maybe a mental effect. Like, oh, we can take it easy today, we're good. That may be it. I hope not. I hope that Conte wouldn't have let them get into that mindset. But I guess we'll see. I think we've got the FA Cup up next against Brentford, and then we've got Liverpool after that, and then we've got Arsenal after that. So we got some big games coming up. I mean, FA Cup, obviously, we want to do well there. I'd love to be able to win the FA Cup and the Premier League first year that Conte comes in. So that's a big game. And then, of course, Liverpool and Arsenal. Both huge games, in my opinion. And that people are going to say that, oh, this is going to decide the title. I don't think, we lose or tie both of those games. I don't think that's it. Obviously, we've got an 8-point advantage. But I think if we win those, I think that's it. We stamped our mark on the league. We're saying this is our league. I think at that point it's over. If Liverpool or Arsenal can't stop us, I think we can say it's done and dusted. So hopefully we can see some improvement next game. Hopefully we get to see a chance to see some youngsters play in the FA Cup. I'd like to see Kennedy and Musonda, one of those two, get a chance to possibly be a wingback. But it's not up to me, of course. But anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Who's your man of the match? Who didn't play well? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you at the next one. Peace out.